This is your host and real estate coach, Rafael Cortez. You are listening to the REI Wholesaling Podcast, where every week I bring you the real-life case studies and strategies you need to level up your real estate wholesaling business. If you haven't done so yet, go to reiwholesaling.com. Again, that's reiwholesaling.com. Sign up and get free access to your Wholesaling 101 course. This free training teaches you step-by-step everything you need to close your next wholesale deal and start making big money now. I'm bringing you guys again another big case study. Today we are sitting down with one of our Rhino Tribe students, Geno Kyle, and I want to break down his process, his path. He started a few months ago. He joined the tribe, and then he started going through the process, and just the results that he's had have been unbelievable. This guy sits on the phone, and he's got the coolest, most laid back demeanor that I've ever seen on anybody. He's got that radio voice. He can almost sweet talk you without even trying to do so. But really what gets it through the door, I think, is that he has that tenacity, that grit, and he's so methodical about the approach that he takes. So I'm excited to break this down, walk you guys through. He's had a bunch of closings in a very, very short period of time. So I want to dive into that, and we'll break down the case study, figure out where the leads came from, how he got them all negotiated, and what his current status is as far as the business goes. So, Geno, thank you very much, brother, for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, of course. So, let's dive right in. So you started a few months back. You had some experience, right, in real estate before then, but mostly you're coming from a background of sales, right?
Yes.
Walk us through that.
I had 25 years worth of sales experience in the automobile industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I started off as a car salesman in like 94, 95, then graduated to management and obviously became a sales trainer for the last 18 years. And I've done everything in a car dealership, but own a franchise. Mm-hmm. And then back in November, I heard 7 words that kind of changed things in my life, and it kind of set me free. They came into my office one day and we decided to part ways with you. And it was probably one of the best things that's ever happened in my life as far as my career path is concerned. And wow. It's crazy because you thought it would have been one of those things that I would have been upset by. But when I got home, my wife was like, "You're taking this extremely well." Uh-huh. And I was like, "There's just a different pathway for me to go." And if there was anything that it said to me, that it was time for me to make a change and take my skill sets and my abilities and apply it to, just trying to further myself in this. And I'm glad it happened. I really am.
It's incredible the amount of uncertainty that can happen, right? When you're dropped a bomb right on your feet, such as that one. Especially if you've spent, decades in that particular field, and then something happens and kind of, you have that, safety blanket pulled from underneath you. I can imagine the level of uncertainty and doubt, and maybe, it can be construed maybe as fear, but I think a lot of times it's either turned into fear and passiveness. So you just sit there and mope on it, or fire and drive for achieving and creating something else, something bigger. So,
well, I think for me, man, it was like the door of opportunity may have been open for a long period of time, but I was in such a good position and I was making great money. I didn't walk out the door. So I guess I just got pushed through the window of opportunity. You know what I mean? So, yeah. One way or another, I was just forced to take advantage of it. And I'm glad I did. It was an incredible experience for me for 25 years in terms of my growth and my development professionally. And now that I'm applying it to this, I can really see it going somewhere.
Oh man, yeah, you got tossed out of your comfort zone, pretty much. Yeah. Anybody who's read a book on personal development knows about the comfort zone and how uncomfortable it can be after years and years of staying there, right? Awesome, man. It's definitely something that can pivot the path of your life. And for you, it took you over to wholesaling in real estate. Which is exactly where you're at now. So tell me about your experience in real estate. How it kind of started and how it's going, and let's build on that.
Well, started with you guys, started thinking about I started thinking about doing it way before I made this transition, because I've heard so much about it. And then I started researching on it and looking at the videos, and I'm sitting up there thinking, okay, yeah, right. And I'm serious. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. And I knew that people were making money in real estate, and hearing the whole concept of no money, I was like, well, here's where I'm getting off the train, because I don't believe this at all. And I've owned numerous properties before, and I just didn't see or couldn't wrap my mind around that. And then I started doing it. And then it was like 2.5 to 3 weeks in. And then I recognized that I didn't believe that I was over my head, but I know I needed something extra to help get me over this hump, to help me wrap my mind around this entire business. And then that's when your name popped up. I got a phone call, and I just made that decision, man, that if I was going to put my money on somebody, I was going to put my money on me, because I knew eventually at some point in time I was going to win. And then I jumped into it with you. And by that time, I had already started running a list and cold calling people off my cell phone. And I had appointments lined up, and really I didn't know what I was doing, but I just knew that I had what it took to succeed. And I knew I was hungry as well. And not to mention the fact, hey, I set fire to a boat that I've been sailing on for the last 25 years. So I had nowhere else to go. So when I heard about the Rhino Tribe and I jumped in it, I was like, wait a minute, this is going to be what I needed. So it's been a great experience for me.
Man, I love it. It's it can be a lot of it's almost like drinking from the fire hose at the beginning, right? If you started with it. Also, one thing that I see often happen with students that join is they've been looking at YouTube and there's a lot of great information out there, but the process is not really laid out. It's so what you end up with is it's like a box of Legos, right? Right. You have the pieces, but you don't necessarily know how to put them all together. You may have the skills as well, but you don't know necessarily exactly where to apply them, how to tweak those conversations. And this is an industry that it's not terribly complicated, but it's not easy. I mean, there's ups and downs. There's a lot of rejection, which is one of the things that we go through, on the training. We talk a lot about that, during the coaching calls and all that. But it's, I think the grit and the tenacity that you've shown over the last few months, I mean, since you started, because this conversation that you're having internally with you and then jumping on it, you're talking about December, right? December 2020?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it's just been amazing to see, the path, the growth, and I mean, at the end of the day, it really rests on the actions that you've taken to get you there, and that's more of a testament than anything else.
Yeah, so, and if I could add to that as well,
of course,
I don't think it's the fact that it's so difficult that people can't understand it, but in between watching a video and doing a transaction, there's some pretty crucial steps that you need to be aware of along the way. And I think sometimes not knowing those things, and I believe it's okay to not know what I don't know, because I'm going to learn a lot more from failing than I would from, I guess you're going to fail anyway. So you need to accept the lessons that come along from it. But if you can shorten the pathway of that learning curve, which is what the tribe had meant to me, that was the biggest influence. Because now I can wrap my mind around it all. And now, wait a minute, now this is all coming together. And I'm hearing other people as far as what they're walking through in regards to the process and having an organization and a structure in place. And then once I seen that, I'm like, okay, now I can get into the fight.
Yeah, I can see the model.
Yes, that's what it's meant for me. So.
Oh man, it's that's music to my ears. Thank you very much for the feedback, man, and the compliments. Your steps to action. I mean, you just jump in there. You've been committed right out of the gate. You've been doing stuff, taking all the action steps, and I mean, crushing it really. I mean, we've jumped on calls and on the live calls and everything. You've had conversations. You've shared a ton of wealth with the tribe. I want to give you kudos on you pulled this big you had this big buyers list, and you didn't hesitate on sharing that with everybody else. I mean, that to me was just amazing. That's
without a doubt. And to be able to, and there's so many things that I learned in such a short period of time, like even just from the forum and being able to go on that forum live and get to the point where you can hear a guy like Bill Rathman that has that much experience in the real estate business, to where not only he can provide the input, he can tell you the what, he was telling you the why, and then he turns around and posts supporting evidence on some of those things. I think that just played a tremendous influence for me. And then being a sales trainer, being able to recognize the importance and the value behind having that experience available to me has helped me out a lot too. So
yeah, absolutely. Putting it all together into this one big package. I love it, man. I love it. So let's dive into the meat and potatoes of the conversation. Let's break down the how many deals did you close? I mean, you closed a few deals. Was it last week, right? Just 4 days ago. You closed 3 deals. So you had 3 that were just lined up, and then boom, boom, they all popped. All right, let's break them down. How did you find the leads? What's the method that was working for you? And
the thing about it with me is that I know I wasn't good at this. So I believe that I threw money in directions earlier on that I didn't have. So when I had caught myself doing it, until I had learned to master the telephone, I wasn't spending any more money on anything else, because I felt like why swing until I can masterfully swing this sword? Why would I take on another one? And I needed to prove that to myself. So some of these deals that I had, they were strictly from cold calling. Like my first 15 hours on the telephone, my wife was like, I had like 6 appointments. I had 6 appointments within 15 hours. And my wife is looking at me like, oh my God, you're going to be a millionaire. But little did she know, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. You know what I mean? But I knew that, hey, if it takes me to get on this telephone and speak to someone about this, this is what I'm going to do. And then more importantly than anything else, the telephone is a great training tool as well, to just get a feel for people and the flow of the conversation and what you should be doing and what you should be saying. So it played a tremendous influence in regards to my confidence as well. And then one of the deals that I had was across the street from a property I had already owned. And I let the guy keep some siding in my garage because I've known him for years. And I drove home one day because one of my tenants hadn't paid me my rent money. And I just happened to be across the street, and I walked over to his house next door and knocked on the door. And his girlfriend came to the door. And I asked her where he was at, because I just wanted to know what he wanted to do with that siding that was in my garage. I didn't know he hadn't worked on the house in months. And unfortunately enough, he was in jail.
Ooh.
Right.
Wow.
And I said, well, do you know when he's getting out? She was like, I can't get the bail money. And I was like, well, what's his bond? She was like, it's $2,500. So I was like, well, what are you going to do? And she was like, I don't know. I was like, well, do you think he'd sell me that house if I could help you guys get out of the situation? She's like, it's not his house, it's mine. So I was like, well, what if I gave you the $2,500? Would you sell me the house? She says, yeah, I'd sell you the house. And it had a couple of code enforcement violations on it. And I was like, well, what about the siding? She says, for $2,500, if I sell you the house, I can't do anything with the siding. So I went and got her $2,500. We signed a quick claim deed, and I had the house. So then I called downtown to code enforcement. A friend of mine answers the phone. She tells me, Geno, if you clean it up and take pictures and send it to me, I'll go ahead and waive it. So I went and got my uncle with a pickup truck, gave him $200. He cleaned it up. I took the pictures. She pulled the code enforcement violation off of it. My cousin hadn't paid me rent in 4 months. So he and 3 of his buddies turned around, put the siding on the house. I went to Menards and bought 2 doors. Wow. So the house already had windows in it. we put the siding on it and it was gutted on the inside. So I was interacting with an investor that was out of town who was buying 15 properties. And I said, would you like to have 16? He says, why not? So he says, give me the address. So he pulls the address up, and from the Google picture, the house was a total wreck on the inside. Mm-hmm. So it had like no siding on it whatsoever. And he was like, you're nuts. He says, what do you want for it? I says, well, would you give me $25,000 for it? He says, I think you've been smoking. I says, well, what pictures are you looking at? He says, well, I'm looking at the pictures from Google and the house is a wreck. I said, well, why don't you ride past it? I'll put a lockbox on it, and maybe you can walk through it and give me a call and let me know what you think. So he pulls up to the house. The house had doors on it. The siding was already on it. It was standing tall on the outside. He walks inside the house. He says, I won't give you $25,000 for it, but I'll give you this. And I was like, okay. And that was the one that yielded that $17,500 deal. And,
wow. So pretty much you sold that, you flipped that property, you bought it for $2,500.
Yeah.
So the seller owned it free and clear?
Free and clear, no liens on it other than a code enforcement violation.
Code enforcement violation. Went straight to the conversation. You went straight for the kill on that one. And it's interesting to see the difference in price points, right? So what market was that in?
South Bend.
South Bend?
Right.
Gotcha. And that's for those who don't know where South Bend is. South
Bend is in Indiana. It's where the University of Notre Dame is at.
Cool. So not far from the University of Notre Dame, $25,000 on that property. I'm assuming he gave you 20 on that?
Huh?
Did he buy it from you for 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 minus the $2,500.
And then he paid
17.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was winning anyway. The tax assessed value on the property was like 74 grand. I own 2 other houses on the block. My aunt lived in the house that was next door. And he was like, hey, wait a minute, that's fair.
Yeah.
For the amount of work that I need to have to get into it. And that one happened to work out.
Wow.
And that one fell right on top of the other 2 that I had. So
17.5 right there, man. 17.5. And that's a quick deal. I mean, it was almost in your atmosphere already, but you hadn't seen that before, right? It hadn't registered on your radar.
No, I mean, not at all. And I mean, I was just going to check on the status of what he planned on doing with the siding that was in my house.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it was not just a distressed property, but they were in a distressed situation financially.
Yeah.
And it enabled us to get them out of it. And she was like, hey, I mean, for 10 years it's been sitting here. I can't do anything with it. We didn't have the money. We were trying to fix it up. They got as far as windows and gutting the house. So it was already gutted out. So that was an expense that the person who bought it didn't have to spend as well. And it just happened to work out.
Wow. And so that closed a couple of days ago, and then you had 2 other deals that were stacked on top of that?
Yes. Yeah, my first deal. And I'll tell you something else. One of the biggest things that I had to overcome, and I think you and I had this conversation before, is not allowing other people's perceptions to become my reality. Because I was taught, you and I had conversations. I'm like, man, why? I think
that's very, very important. Say that again, please.
I mean, you can't allow other people's perceptions to become your own reality. Because the 3 deals that I had people cussing me out, telling me that they weren't deals. I mean, they were actually telling me that's not a deal. Or they're telling me what can be done or what couldn't be done. And the whole thing about it is this: if I would have listened to those people, I wouldn't have made any money.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you have to come to your own assumptions, and you get that through experience. You get that through your trusted network and you know the people in the process that you have around you. So no, it's a huge difference. It makes a huge difference.
You gotta hustle. You gotta hustle, man. You gotta figure some things out. I mean, it's not gonna always lay out exactly as they should. I think sometimes we can get caught we can get caught up in what people tell us can't be done as opposed to what can be done.
Right.
And I mean, it only takes one person to say that's a good deal, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do those two other deals look like in terms of numbers?
Well, I had one deal. Everybody told me that it wasn't a deal at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one deal that I had that got close, they sent an inspector in, and the inspector tells the buyer, the end buyer, that the house needed $35,000 in repairs.
Mm-hmm.
So that had blown that deal apart. And just as I'm about to give up on it, I've been networking with a contractor that was like, hey, man, I know an investor that buys properties and hold on to them. And in the conversation, I told the guy that, hey, man, in terms of like a 65 to 70% rule, I'm just telling you right now, this property is not going to apply to that because I believe it's a great buy and hold property for someone, especially long term. So he says, well, let me look at it. So we're walking through the house. It's not $40,000 worth of rehab. He got it done for $8,000. I showed him some comps that if you added a half bath to this house, it would take the ARV up to 124.9. He says, well, it's not like I was going to sell it anyway, but now that you mention it, I think I can do that for that amount of money. And he makes me an offer that I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So I go back to my seller. I get her to lower the price to $38,000.
Mm-hmm.
I call this guy back and tell him I can't make the deal work. I got to be at the $54,000. He says, well, that's fine. I'll do it. And he takes it for the $54,000. So, I mean, it's just one thing after another. If it's going to happen, you're going to have to make it happen.
So 38. So you got it for 38 and you sold it for $54,000.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, was that on the same day as the other one, or was it after, during the same week, or when did it happen?
One fell on one week, and then another one fell on the other week, and then they just happened to close in the same week.
Wow.
And he was like, I'm not waiting. Let's go.
I
know what I've got. I know what I've got here. He says, I know I'm not losing. The house was in great shape. She just ran out of money. He needed to repair 2 bedrooms upstairs and replace a window.
Oh, I mean, it was an easy move-in ready type of deal.
It was, yeah. Oh my God, the house was great. It was in great shape.
Yeah, man, that's two. So you have 17.5 on one, you have 16K on the other one, and then you still locked the third one up.
Right.
Now, what was the source of the lead for this $16,000 deal?
She had a for sale by owner sign in the front yard.
For sale by owner. So were you driving for dollars, or
I was driving for dollars, and then she was walking down the street and I passed her. Then she walked up to the door and then I turned around.
Almost serendipitous.
Right. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Are you selling that? She was like, yeah. I'm like, well, I noticed you don't have a price on it. And she was like, I'm not putting one on it. I want somebody to make me an offer.
Mm-hmm.
And
hey, guess what? That's what I do.
Yeah, perfect. And we started talking, and maybe about after a week or so,
mm-hmm.
I had given her my card, and she called me back, and she was like, well, maybe we need to talk.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, she was moving to Atlanta, and she was underneath a time crunch, and she wouldn't take anything less than 47.9.
Well, at this point, I mean, if we go down the line of the pre-qualifiers, you have condition of the house. So condition it's applicable. You have motivation. Yeah. You have motivation because she's moving, and then you have the timeline because she's moving now. And the price also makes sense. I mean, that's like, the perfect scenario right there. Had you not picked up the phone on that for sale by owner, which a lot of people don't, you would have missed out on $16,000. Man, how crazy is that? How crazy is that? Yeah.
It's if you don't think it's a deal, or you can make a deal, or it's that phone call you don't make, or it's that door you don't knock on, it's that question that you don't ask, that's the one that's gonna keep you from where you want to be.
Absolutely.
If that sounds right.
I agree. And then sometimes you just have to get a little bit creative, right, on how to structure the deals. You got to see the different angles. Okay, cool. This may not be a deal for somebody who flips the house, but it could be a deal for somebody who buys and holds the house and has a bunch of rentals.
Right.
So you have to come at it and then step back and look at the big picture and really take time to have some critical thinking in there and figure out what the best course of action is for the negotiation of the property, for the solutions that you can provide, for the sale of the contract whenever you talk to your end buyer and whatnot. So there's a lot of pieces that go in there. At the end of the day, it all comes around the idea of solving a problem, right?
Right.
But it's crazy. You pretty much pre-qualified that lady right there on the spot, and that's if that's not a lead, I don't know what is.
I mean, yeah, it is.
What's
is.
The third one? Tell me about the third one.
That was one of the first ones that I had gotten, and that was another property that needed very minimal repairs. Everybody's telling me you're nuts. You should be having it for $13,000, $15,000. And after I had it under contract, and like I said before, I'm not letting other people's perceptions of what they conceive to be a deal to become my reality. And to make a long story short, I got connected with some guys, and the guy was like, well, we don't do anything but buy and holds. So as far as we're concerned, let us send our contractor out. Had great rapport with the contractor. He calls him back and he tells him, you need to jump all over it. We come to terms on that one. And then that one closed last week. As a matter of fact, they closed on Thursday.
Oh, wow. Wow. So 1, 2, 3, what was the spread on that one?
About $7,400.
$7,400.
And that was my lowest one. And it was almost like I seemed as if I was getting dejected behind it. But I think the most important thing is that I had a deal and I seen it come to pass. But I mean, there's probably like $41,000 in a week. So I mean, every little bit helps right now.
Bro, a little bit? That's what people are making a year. That's
I've got a fourth one. I've got a fourth one under contract right now in South Bend too. So I'm hoping I can pull another maybe 16, 17 grand out of that one within the next week. So I mean, we're moving forward.
So you have a pipeline, that's fed right now. You have a pipeline, then you're still prospecting and doing, lead generation, all the activities behind it.
Putting my money right back into my business. Working on a little bit more lead generation right now.
Treating it like a business. That's the thing.
Oh, you better believe it.
Gotta treat it like a business.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate, man. I'm blessed. Going to start investing in a couple of VAs, start doing some RVMs, just start expanding this and watching it grow from there.
Man, you're making leaps and bounds in a very, very short amount of time. It's amazing. It's great to see you grow. Great to be part of the journey. It's insane. I mean, you're closing over $40,000 in profits and deals in a matter of a few months, starting off right out of the gate. I mean, imagine where you're going to be in 6 months and 12 months from that. So that's a beautiful thing about having or following the process, mixing the linear process and building a business. While having that tenacity, that grit to stay on it, that desire to really make things happen. At the end of the day, that's what it takes. You made a good point earlier that I want to, before we sign off, I want to highlight. You were talking about cold calling and how that's one of the things has been one of the things for you, right? I think cold calling, a lot of people try to shy away from it because, oh, you know what? Cold calling is not my thing. That's not my style. I'd rather do pay-per-click and have the leads come to me. And that's fine and dandy, but I think cold calling, what it does is it creates the skin, the thicker rhino skin that we need to deal with sellers and rejection. That's one. You've been really, really good about having that consistency and making the calls and having those conversations and breaking them down, going through the process, the discovery, the negotiation, and all that. And really, what all that cold calling has done is prepped you for those negotiations, to not be shy and shoot on the spot. It's like target practice, right? You're cold calling, it's target practice, and it's putting in the reps for the real show, which is when you're sitting in front of a seller and negotiating that property, or having an actual negotiation over the phone. If you're not exposed to talking to people and getting rejected, you're going to be super intimidated. You're going to be shy. You're not going to be confident by the time you get to that negotiation part of the deal. And then, that's when the next guy gets it. So,
I mean, here's the thing, man. You'll never become great at doing things you like to do You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll never become great at doing something. Oh my God, I love doing this. But when you really look at it, is what it is you love to do, that's what making you who you are as a business person. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think here, the most grueling and the most grinding part of all of this is being able to find comfort in being that uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And nothing makes me more uncomfortable than being on a telephone. But then again, there's nothing that gives me more confidence that once I'm off of it, or once I set an appointment, or once I close a deal, I feel like I pushed a rock up the mountain, and now here's where the game starts. So I mean, I don't look at it like that. It's just like boxing. I mean, you know what I mean? Mayweather, he didn't become Floyd Mayweather by only boxing in the actual fight. I mean, it's the training and the hard work that goes into it before you arrive. And I think until you can get comfortable knowing that you're not going to arrive until you move that aspect out of the way, it's going to be hard.
Man, I love it.
I've known that for years anyway. So I never had a problem really going after it that way.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And that's a very, very strong and needed, state of mind. That's really the mindset that you got to have. And I'm not saying cold call, for the rest of your entrepreneur career. It's not that, right? But it does cut the curve on that trench work, on that confidence and that experience that you're going to need. So I encourage people to actually have conversations, find a way to have conversations with people one-to-one. Why? Because you're going to get rejected. You want to get that out of the way. You want to build that thicker skin right out of the way. A few weeks into it, you're not even going to feel the no's. You're not even going to feel the, you know what, don't call me again. It's not going to matter. It's just going to be another, all right, this person is not interested. You don't take it home. It's not ego. It's not any of that stuff. It's target practice. And it makes you better. It really does make you better at the end of the day. So.
Oh, you better believe it does.
Yeah. It makes you better at discovering and reading between the lines, finding really what the real issues are, as opposed to trying to assume what you can come in and solve, for the sellers. And that much, better at negotiating properties and getting win-win solutions on both sides. Geno, well, thank you so much, man. It's been a blast having you. I love the journey that you're on. I'm very proud and honored to be a part of it. And I can't wait to see what you do in the next 6 months, man. I think it's going to be insane. You're on the right track. You're on a rocket ship right now, and you're doing big things, believe it or not.
Hey, man, you tell Adam I said congratulations, and then you need to let him know that I'm coming with a bigger one.
Ooh, now it's a one-on-one.
You need to let him know I'm coming with a bigger one next time. So, I'm just so thankful, man, that I had this opportunity to connect with you and help bridge some of these gaps that I'm going through, man. It's just playing a tremendous influence for me. And I'm looking forward to where this is all going. I don't know. I may be 4 or 5 years. I may still be jumping on the same forum, but I don't care. I mean, I'm gaining from it. And, man, I'm just lucky to be with you guys, man. Thank you.
I love it, man. And we love you, brother. Glad to have you as part of the tribe.
Fam, thank you for listening. Every week I bring you the real, the raw, the mindset, the case studies, and the strategies you need to build your own successful real estate wholesaling business. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and don't miss out on real life experience and information that can make you millions. It's time to join the ranks of successful wholesalers and real estate entrepreneurs like the one you just heard, and take advantage of one of the biggest opportunities that we have in our lifetime to generate wealth. So go to reiwholesaling.com. Head over to my website, again, that's reiwholesaling.com, and learn how to make big profits, make big money by finding, negotiating, and closing wholesale deals from your own backyard. You've heard the stories, seen the case studies, stop thinking about it, it's time to write your own. Again, head over to reiwholesaling.com, click on coaching program, book a discovery call, have a conversation with my team, and you might get an invitation to join hundreds of students throughout the country who are leveling up on a daily basis. The writing is on the wall. Hustle is a season. It's not a business strategy. Take action, start building a sustainable and scalable real estate wholesaling business, and join the coaching program today. I will catch you guys on the next one. Talk to you soon. Stay focused. You got this.